everyone, and welcome back to Barb's Basement. Turns out I was right. Last week, Barb was working overtime, laying down some cement work to lock me in this basement for eons untold. The only human contact that I have is hearing Barb shout from the world above, "It reads the Legends comics again, or else it gets the hose again." I'm not exactly sure what that means, but I am terrified to find out. Last time on Star Wars Legacy, Cade and the gang arrive on Sakaro to hand in Hosk. He obviously tries to resist because the alternative is never-ending Sith torture. He runs but quickly discovers Cade is a former Jedi. The gang hand in Hosk into Rav. He gives the crew no credits but helps Cade further his crippling death stick addiction. Since there is no Obi-Wan around to help, he accepts. The crew gets mad, Cade is a dick about it. Meanwhile, Ronfell smooth talks his way into Bastion's DMs. With the exception of this idiot. Roan now has the Imperial homeworld of Bastion, since most of the Stormtroopers would rather help out Roan instead of the murderous Sith Lords. But wait, now the Sith have tracked down Empress Marasiya, and now she is on the run. Roan forbids his knights from going out to actually help her. Their military hold is still really weak, and they can't risk revealing their hand just yet. Krayt is still unaware that Bastion has fallen. Meanwhile, back on Sakaro, Marasiya and Astrael, Jesus Christ, that fucking name, are formulating a plan to escape. Phoning in to Shadow, Astrael's brother. They are going to meet the Jedi on Vendaxa. Elsewhere in Sakaro, Cade is about to get high, but his ancestor, Luke, shows up to give him the good old "look here, Buster" speech. All jokes aside, this is actually a pretty powerful sequence. Luke tells his descendant that he is a destiny and no amount of doing Destics will truly stop his destiny from finding him. Destiny comes knocking almost immediately when Marasiya happens upon their ship. Trying to use a mind trick on Cade, prepares secure passage off-world. But Talon is hot on their trail. After an emergency takeoff, the crew head to Vendaxa, and so does Talon. After a quick Google search, Cade quickly deduces that the new passenger is in fact the Princess of the Empire. He formulates a plan to hand her over to Fel, and then to turn the Fels into the Sith. It's a sure thing. Spoiler alert, it isn't a sure thing. So this week we pick back up with issue number 4, and frankly, one of my favorites of the entire series. This issue opens up on Korriban, the ancient homeworld and graveyard of the Sith. Darth Krayt, the leader of the one Sith and the current Emperor, is outside of a tomb, reciting the creed of the Sith. Peace is a lie, there is only passion, through passion I gain strength, through strength I gain power, through power I gain victory, through victory my chains are broken. Look, we've all joined a cult at some point, we get it. Krayt is using the Force to access 3 ancient holocrons, asking the Sith who have come before him to bestow him with dark knowledge. He is opening his mind to their secrets of power. In the darkness, 3 incorporeal figures form, revealing the gatekeepers of the holocrons. Darth Endedu, Lord Nihilus, and the bad boy himself, Darth Bane. Krayt is trying to impose his will onto these mighty Sith, and it is clear from the start they absolutely do not like him, with Bane calling him a would-be Sith. Ouch. Krayt and his rabble are directly defiling his Sith order and the order that brought about Darth Sidious and Sith domination. A quick side note, it is awesome to see Bane in his Orbalisk armor. I mean, look at him. Cool. Anyways, back to the main note. Krayt argues that he has improved on the rule of 2 by making the Sith one. Krayt argues that he recreated the Sith just like Bane did when he tricked all the Sith into committing forced bubble suicide. Krayt has seized power and given it a purpose. What would his power be without a purpose? Bane disagrees, stating that power is its own purpose, just like Revan taught him in the past. And to share his power with lesser Sith is to dilute it. His order will fold on itself, and they will turn on him, just like the Sith did in the past. Darth Endedu chimes in, calling Krayt an outright heretic. He has only come seeking the knowledge because his body is failing him. This mysterious sickness is consuming him. Here Krayt appeals to Bane, saying that Bane was able to master the Orbalisk armor that attached to his body, and Endedu was able to use the Force to extend his lifespan well after his body died. Lord Nihilus escaped his death by containing his essence in his armor or something. Krayt wants to know how they were all able to achieve this. Endedu, mocking the Dark Lord, casts a grim vision on him. His body is quickly consumed by the Vong spawn that are plaguing his body, turning him into a mangled, spiny monster straight out of a Lovecraft story. Krayt defies this vision, proclaiming that he takes what he desires. He is the living Lord of the Sith. This is not his truth, and he will not succumb to this Vong disease. In this act of defiance, he tells the great Sith of old that if they will not serve him, they can go fuck themselves. I was actually surprised by that sentence. He will find other teachings. He will find another way to cure himself. This is one of the most famous sequences from this series. It showcases just how different all the schools of Sith philosophy are. Bane led one of the most powerful Sith of all time to take over the galaxy through the rule of 2, and Dedu was able to outwit all of his enemies and destroy his would-be betrayers, preserving his spirit for a millennia. And Nihilus ate some planets and spoke some gibberish or something. Across the galaxy on Vandaxa, Krayt and the crew are fleeing from something. Sin asked Krayt if he could have landed the Minok further away from the crash site, but Krayt just did his best since Vandaxa is mostly covered in dense jungle. Sin, being the exposition outlet of this panel, asks the crew why they are even here to begin with. Estrella informs the gang that this crash site is where her parents had crashed when they were very young. Her and her twin brother Shadow were the only two survivors. Since there were no monsters there when they were both young, they thought it would be a safe space to meet if they ever needed to meet in secrecy. At this point, Krayt is actually unaware that her twin brother is in fact his childhood friend Shadow. He believes that her brother is just another Imperial missionary. Then boom, an acolyte pops out. Estrella is swiped by the acolyte, but before it can launch, Shadow and Master Wolf Sazin spring into action. Sin, ever the racist, immediately calls the Jedi a Slimo. Come on Sin, it's 137 APY. Be better than this. Delilah, continuing to be a massive dipshit, says there are only 2 Jedi and there's 3 of them. She likes these odds.
Bitch, are you for real?
The Jedi team up to take down the acolyte because, well, they're Jedi. Sin is in shock and asks Delilah if she's been hitting that pipe if she ever thought they could take them. Once Shadow and Wolf dispatch of the acolyte, they greet Marcia and Estrella. Shadow, seeing the grimy and dirty crew of the Minok, questions the company that his sister is keeping. Marcia is no dummy, and she uses this moment to reveal that she knew the whole time the crew had probably deduced her true identity, and their darker intentions. However, once they are clear of the bounty hunters, she will have the Empire wire a huge sum of credits to whatever account they wish. Krayt, recognizing his former best friend and master, has a pure oh shit moment. He tells Delilah and Sin that they are cutting their losses and he tries to leave as quickly as possible. Sin is flabbergasted that Krayt would let the princess take advantage of them like this. Both Shadow and Wolf quickly realize that this is their Krayt, the living son of Cole Skywalker and the descendant of Luke. The one they thought died in that fiery crash all those years ago. Krayt is still trying to hide his former Jedi identity from his crew, asking the Jedi if they have a problem. Wolf realizes how delicate of a situation Krayt must be in, and simply responds with, no. It is a very dangerous time to be a Jedi in the galaxy. Wolf is quick to diffuse the tension and tries to hurry the princess along, but boom, the Jedi shuttle explodes. Marcia, just having told off the gang, is served a heaping slice of humble pie. The price for passage has now doubled. Marcia and Wolf both feel the dark presence of Darth Talon approaching. Sin remarks that he doesn't feel anything. What an idiot. Talon springs from the foliage with the beasts of the jungle, launching her surprise attack. Shadow and Wolf quickly go on the defensive, telling the princess and Estrella to flee. Krayt explains to Delilah that the beasts are being influenced by the Force to attack the crew. Talon engages in a duel with the 2 Jedi as Sin rightfully calls out Krayt for thinking that all of this was even remotely a good idea. I mean, come on, the whole thing was gonna go tits out from the start. Silhouetted by the night's moon, Talon delivers some exposition, and quickly gives away her more than likely very top secret title. She is Krayt's hand, and she is the Jedi's death. Talon gets the upper hand by force pushing Shadow into a bluff. She then singles out Wolf, telling the Jedi that Darth Nihil marked him by taking his hand, but Talon will take more than just his other hand, she will take his life. Marcia, seeing that the Jedi are in dire straits, pulls a saber to try and protect the one-handed master from Talon's barrage of lightning, telling Talon that she won't let another person who came to her defense die in her name. She felt her master die in the Force, and she isn't about to let Wolf do the same. Talon can feel the Force in the princess, but she knows that Marcia is no match for her. Her training was not yet complete, and she just uses the Force to check her. Oh. Talon still doesn't want the princess dead, she simply wants her to run back to her father. Here we have a pivotal moment in Krayt's journey. His former master tells him to take Marcia and to run, a direct mirror of the massacre of Ossus. The last time they were in this situation, everything that Krayt ever knew or loved was taken from him, including his father. In typical Krayt fashion, he chooses his own path. Despite Delilah telling him to cut their losses, he chooses action, unloading his double-barreled blaster at the Sith Lord. Delilah and Sin reluctantly join him by blasting at Talon, and she quickly uses the Force to disarm the entire crew. Talon is going in for the kill, saber drawn and ready for murder. And in a final act of desperation, Krayt finally uses his natural gift of the Force and hurls debris at the oncoming Sith, and then uses the Force to bring his blaster back to his hand. All except the 2 Jedi who already knew Krayt's identity look on in awe in Krayt's ability in the Force. Surely this is going to have repercussions on Sin and Krayt's relationship. Dissolve back to the Minok! Sin tells the crew that the Sith damaged a lot of the Minok systems. I think it's actually really hard to tell what this sentence means. It is going to take a lot of repairs to get the Minok back into flying shape. Sin questions why the Sith didn't just blow their ship up like he did with the Jedi shuttle. Estrella, eager to help, tells her crew that she can work on the comm system. She has experience in IT, working with the Imperial mission. Shadow and Wolf can sense the Sith is still out there somewhere, stalking and hunting them. but Shadow wants to turn the hunt on her. Wolf tells the young Jedi Knight to hold out. The Sith will reveal herself soon enough, and they need to stay alert. Back in the Minok, Estrella is using the ship's comms to reach out to Moff Conrad Russ, her superior officer in the Imperial mission. The Imperial mission is basically a religion that isn't really a religion. They would send out missionaries to non-Imperial worlds to try and improve the relationships, to prove to various worlds that they were no longer the Empire of old. This was all part of Fel's Victory Without War initiative, sending support to planets that had suffered at the hands of the Yuuzhan Vong decades earlier. This stood in stark contrast to the Jedi and the Galactic Alliance's Ossus project, that brought the Vong back into the galactic fold, trying to improve the Vong's image, therefore allowing them to integrate into the larger galaxy. Shadow, being a direct victim of the Empire that turned on Fel and his Imperial mission, isn't sure Estrella should trust a Moff. She reassures her brother that this Moff embodies the ideals of the former Empire, and everything that she has dedicated her life to. Estrella has a connection to the Force, and she could have joined the Jedi Order when her brother did. She could have been trained to be a knight. But the mission is where she belongs, just like the Jedi is where Shadow belongs. She has a sense of debt to the mission, since they took the two orphans in when their parents died in that crash. When her brother left for the Jedi, it tore her apart, but she grew to understand that Shadow's calling was to be a Jedi Knight. Shadow understands that his sister is everything the Imperial mission claims to be. If she trusts this Moff, he will accept her judgment. Flickering to life, the figure of the Moff appears. The first thing he asks is her location. Already a red flag. She runs down the situation, telling the Moff their location, the Jedi, and the attack from the Sith. For the time being, the Sith has been repelled, and they are working double time to make sure the Minok gets repaired. The Moff is taken aback by the presence of Jedi Knights. He tells Estrella that he will contact the Rightful Emperor. Marcia won't be safe until she is back with her father. He tells the missionary to stay on Vendaxa until they hear from Fel, or he contacts them again. Turns out Estrella probably shouldn't have trusted the Moff. Krayt was there, listening in on their conversation. Krayt admits that he thought that the Imperial mission was a waste of the Imperial budget, but he is impressed by the Moff's adaptability. Russ remarks that one must change with the times. The mission has always served the Emperor, and if the Emperor changes, it just means finding new ways to serve. Krayt knows that if Fel does come for his daughter, he won't come alone, and he will more than likely bring his Imperial Knights. Russ, more than likely knowing Fel very well, asks what if he doesn't come for his daughter. Krayt is a patient man. He knows that eventually she will either find her way back to her father, or they will capture her, enlightening the shit out of her until she confesses where her father is. Russ hopes that they can avoid using torture as a method of extraction. He will contact Emperor Fel and inform him that his daughter is in direct danger. He has back channels. Fel will get the message. Krayt can trust him, and he does. Russ lives to serve. Thus concludes issue number 4 of Star Wars Legacy. Like I said at the start of the issue, this is by far one of my favorite of the entire series. We get to see just how vulnerable Krayt actually is, and we get to see 3 of the most powerful Sith Lords to ever live. And I actually love that they all hate Krayt for various different reasons, and since they hate him so much and they're not willing to help him out in any way, shape, or form, Krayt is becoming more and more extreme the longer it takes for him to find a cure for the Vong spawn. It's a real ticking clock situation here. Cade finally gives in and uses the power that he was blessed with to help out not only himself, but the people that he cares about. He uses the Force to save his old family and his new family. He may be a total dickhead, but he isn't heartless. He didn't want to fail his master this time. Things get even spicier with the Imperial Civil War. Krayt, a lot like fascist dictators, is using the Imperial mission, once a force for good, as a tool to hunt down his enemies. Soon, Darth Nihil will be on the hunt for the false Emperor and the Jedi he failed to kill on Ossus. Soon, Cade will clash with the Sith that killed his father, ruining his life. Well, hopefully you enjoyed this week's episode. Make sure you check out our interview with Tad Larkin of Mandalore. We touch on his views of the expanded universe, the Disney purchase of Star Wars, and the mass acceptance of fandom. And coming down the pipeline, we are going to be covering the Knights of the Old Republic comic series, so make sure you look out for that. But until then, we will see you next Sunday with the next issue of Legacy.